He had worn that jacket for 312 days straight. Not because he forgot. Not because he didn't notice the fraying at the left cuff or the small bleach stain near the second button. He noticed. He just didn't care. Not about that. He cared about one thing. And she was 8 years old. And her name was Lily. And she was sitting in a courtroom waiting to find out if she still had a father. $12. That's what the jacket cost. A clearance rack find from a discount bin 3 years ago. Back when he was still the kind of man who thought cheap was temporary. Back when he believed he'd replace it by spring. He hadn't replaced it. He'd worn it to job interviews, to school pickups, to parent-teacher nights where the other fathers arrived in pressed shirts and tailored coats, and looked at him the way people look at something they're not sure belongs in the room. The courtroom was cold. Marcus sat at a narrow wooden table on the left side of the aisle. His jacket was buttoned. His hands were folded. His attorney, a young woman named Priya who had taken his case for a fee that barely covered her filing costs, leaned toward him and whispered something about staying calm. He didn't need the reminder. Calm was something he had practiced for a long time. Calm was something he had learned in rooms far more dangerous than this one. Across the aisle, the opposing team was a row of dark suits and leather portfolios. 3 attorneys. 1 financial consultant. A woman in a grey blazer who had spent the last 4 months arguing in court documents that Marcus was unfit, unstable, and financially incapable of raising a child. Lily sat just behind the rail. 8 years old. Pink backpack on her lap because she'd come straight from school and Marcus hadn't had time to drop it anywhere. She was drawing something in the margins of her homework. Stars, probably. She always drew stars. She didn't understand what was happening. That was the part that cost him the most. The judge called the room to order. The opposing attorney stood and adjusted her blazer and smiled the kind of smile that is not a smile at all. "Your Honor," she said, "we have obtained a full financial disclosure." She held up a folder. The room waited. And Marcus sat very still in his $12 jacket and let them believe whatever they needed to believe, for just a little while longer. His name was Marcus Webb, 41 years old, former structural engineer. Currently, according to his most recent tax return, earning $34,000 a year doing facilities maintenance for a mid-sized logistics company. The kind of building work that nobody notices until something breaks. He had not always earned $34,000 a year. But the past is a room he didn't linger in. The relevant facts were these. His wife Elena had died 22 months ago, a brain aneurysm, sudden and without warning, on a Tuesday morning while Lily was at school. Marcus had been on site at a warehouse project 40 minutes away. He got the call, drove to the hospital, and arrived 11 minutes after she was gone. He had not spoken about it since, not in any way that counted, because there was a daughter to feed and a mortgage to manage, and grief was a luxury he'd put on a shelf for a quieter season that hadn't come yet. He lived in a 2-bedroom rental in a neighborhood that wasn't bad but wasn't good either. The kind of street where everyone waves but nobody stops. He woke at 5:15 every morning. Made Lily's lunch before she was awake, always the same. 1 sandwich cut diagonally, not straight, because she'd told him once that diagonal tasted better and he had never questioned it. A small bag of crackers. A note. Always a note, 3 words or fewer, folded into a triangle the way Elena used to fold them. He drove Lily to school at 7:40. At work by 8:30, in the grey maintenance coveralls with the company logo on the chest. Back at school pickup at 3:15. The $12 jacket over the coveralls, because he changed in the parking lot and didn't want her seeing him in work clothes. She'd never asked why. Children accept the rituals of their parents without question. One evening, a week before the court date, Lily brought him a drawing. She set it on the kitchen table while he was reviewing documents. Didn't say anything. Just placed it and walked back to the couch. He looked at it. A man and a small girl, stick figures, standing in front of a tall building. The man had a triangle for a jacket. She'd drawn his jacket. He folded the drawing carefully and put it in his breast pocket. He'd been wearing it there ever since. The first hint came the following morning. He was on a call before Lily woke, early, voice low, discussing numbers that didn't match the $34,000 on his tax form. He saw Lily appear in the hallway, rubbing her eyes. He ended the call quickly. She didn't ask who he was talking to. She never asked. But she noticed things. That was Lily. She always noticed things. The custody dispute had begun 6 weeks after Elena's funeral. It had come from Elena's family, specifically from her older brother, Derek, who was a property developer in the city and who had decided, with a kind of confidence that wealthy people sometimes confuse for kindness, that Lily would be better off with him and his wife. They had a larger home, a better school district, 2 incomes. Derek had filed a petition for guardianship citing Marcus's diminished financial capacity, and what the filing called chronic employment instability. The filing had not mentioned that Marcus was the one who had never missed a pickup, never missed a school concert, never let Lily go to bed without that folded 3-word note tucked under her pillow. Filings don't have space for that. Priya had laid out the reality plainly. They have resources. We fight on merits. That's fine, Marcus said. They'll try to make you look small, she said. Let them, he said. 3 weeks before the court date, Marcus's colleague at the logistics company, a man named Ray, 26, a single father himself with a daughter who had just been diagnosed with a condition that required a specialist, came to Marcus's workbench looking like a man trying not to fall apart. Ray didn't ask. He never would have. He just stood there sorting through a parts bin he didn't need to sort. Marcus waited. The specialist's intake fee, Ray finally said. It's $400. Insurance doesn't touch it until after the consultation. He stopped talking. Marcus opened his wallet. There was $440 in it. That was what he had left until the following Friday, 9 days away. He had already calculated the margin. School lunch account needed $25 by Thursday. Parking for court dates would run about $60 over the next 2 weeks. The remaining $355 was supposed to cover food and incidentals for him and Lily. He took out $400. Marcus, I can't. Your daughter's name is Chloe, Marcus said. She needs the appointment. Ray stood very still. I'll pay you back by. Don't mention it again, Marcus said. He went back to work. He had $40 left. 9 days. 1 court date approaching. That evening he picked Lily up late, traffic, and she was the last child waiting outside the school gates, sitting on her backpack, reading. She looked up when she saw him. You're 11 minutes late, she said. I know, he said. I'm sorry. She studied him for a moment, the way she had studied him since Elena died. Like she was checking something. Then she took his hand and they walked to the car. He bought her a $3 hot dog from a corner vendor because he hadn't had time to cook. She said it was the best thing she'd ever eaten. He had $37 left. And it was only Tuesday. The complication arrived Thursday morning. Priya called before 7 a.m., before Lily was awake. They filed a supplementary motion, Priya said. Her voice was careful. They're requesting a full financial audit. Both current assets and anything held under related entities. Related entities, Marcus repeated. It'll be produced in open court, Priya said. Marcus, if there's anything in those numbers that looks unusual, out of place with your stated income, they will use it. A long pause. Marcus, she said, is there anything I should know? He looked at the doorway of Lily's room. I'll be at your office at noon, he said. The noon meeting lasted 4 hours. Priya sat across from him with a yellow legal pad and the kind of expression that lawyers develop when they are trying very hard not to show alarm. She had asked him a question. A simple one, really. She had asked him to account for a series of transfers, quarterly deposits into a personal account, that the opposing side's financial consultant had flagged. The deposits didn't match his employment income. They were consistent. They were substantial. And they had been happening for 9 years. Marcus answered her question. Priya's pen stopped moving. She looked at him for a long time. You've been living on $34,000, she said. Not a question. A reckoning. It was enough, he said. Marcus, this. I know what it looks like, he said. I know what they're going to do with it. Let them do it. She leaned forward. You understand that when they produce this in open court. I understand, he said. They're going to present it as concealment, she said. Hidden assets. It looks intentional. It was intentional, Marcus said. Priya stared. I just didn't intend it the way they'll say, he added. He would not explain further. She would have to trust him, or she wouldn't. She was quiet a long moment. Then she picked up her pen. All right, she said. We prepare for the worst version of this. And you sit there and you let them read it. That's the plan, Marcus said. That night he came home to find Lily had made dinner. Sort of. She had arranged crackers in a circle on a plate around a mound of peanut butter and placed a single candle in the center of it, unlit. She didn't use matches without him. I made a special meal, she said. He sat down at the table. He looked at the crackers. The unlit candle. Her face. Completely serious. Completely proud. He ate every cracker. Best thing I've ever had, he said. She grinned and went back to her homework. The first blow landed the following Monday. Derek's legal team produced a series of emails, internal communications between Marcus and a former business contact, that, taken in isolation, suggested Marcus had been systematically underreporting. The way they framed it, reading sentences out of context in that smooth, even courtroom voice, made it sound like the portrait of a dishonest man. The judge's expression shifted. Barely, a fraction. But Priya saw it. She wrote one word on her notepad and pushed it toward Marcus. Damage. He read it. Nodded once. The second blow came 20 minutes later, and it was personal. Derek himself took the stand. He was composed, well-dressed, prepared. He spoke about Elena. About her values. About how much she would have wanted stability for Lily. He said her name, Elena, in the gentle, soft way that people say the names of the dead when they want the living to feel the weight of them. Marcus's jaw moved. Just once. He pressed his folded hands flat against the table. Lily was drawing behind him. Stars, probably. Still drawing stars. She had no idea her uncle was on the stand erasing her father. The judge called a recess. Dark. Dark. The hallway was fluorescent and cold. Priya walked fast, heels sharp on the tile. Marcus kept pace. They're building a case for intent, she said. If the judge accepts their framing before we rebut, we're not done, Marcus said. Marcus, I need to prepare you. Priya, he said. He stopped walking. He turned to her. When the financial disclosure is read, I need you to let me sit without intervening. She frowned. That is not how. I know how it works, he said. I'm asking you to trust the document. She looked at him, his clean but threadbare jacket, his maintenance worker's hands, his $14 work shoes, and she made a decision. Okay, she said. I trust the document. They went back inside. The recess ended. The judge reconvened. And Derek's attorney stood up, smoothed her grey blazer, and said the words that she believed would end this. Your Honor, we request that the full financial disclosure for Mr. Marcus Webb be entered into the record and read aloud. She was smiling when she said it. Marcus looked at Lily. Lily had finished her drawing. She held it up for him, a star with a face. She was smiling at it. He turned back to face the front. The court clerk accepted the folder, opened it, cleared her throat. She began reading. First the standard preamble, account classifications, the bureaucratic architecture that no one in the room was truly listening to. Derek's attorney stood with her hands folded, patient, wearing the expression of someone about to prove a point they had spent months constructing. Then the numbers began. A checking account, $2,340. The attorney nodded slightly. Exactly what they expected. A savings account, $8,100. Still manageable. Still consistent with a man on $34,000 a year. Still building the portrait they wanted. The clerk continued. A trust account, established 9 years ago. Beneficiary listed as Lily Elena Webb. Current value, $1,240,000. A pause. The clerk reread the figure. Derek's attorney's pen dropped. Not dramatically. It just fell from her fingers and hit the floor, and she didn't immediately reach for it, because she was reading over the clerk's shoulder and her face had gone the color of old parchment. The clerk continued. An investment portfolio, index funds, maintained under a holding entity named WEL Structural Partners. Current value, $3,870,000. A property holding, 2 commercial units in the financial district. Acquired 7 years ago. Current appraised value, $2,100,000. A secondary trust, charitable distribution account, $740,000. The clerk paused again, turned a page. A final entry, an advisory stake in a regional infrastructure firm, vested over 11 years, current market value. And she read the number. The room made a sound. Not a gasp, something quieter and more complete than a gasp. A collective stopping. The sound of a room recalibrating. Derek's attorney had retrieved her pen. She was holding it but not writing. Her mouth had opened slightly. She closed it. She looked at her colleagues. One of them was already flipping back through his documents with the urgent energy of a man who has made a critical error and cannot locate where. The financial consultant at the end of the row had turned in his chair to look at Marcus directly. Marcus did not look back. The total, everything across all holdings, exceeded $11 million. The judge looked up from the document. She looked at Marcus. He met her gaze. Held it. Said nothing. Derek had turned in his seat. His face was a landscape that had not yet decided what weather to be. He looked at his brother-in-law, the man he had spent 6 weeks calling financially incapable, diminished, unstable, in his $12 jacket and his maintenance worker's hands, and for the first time in 6 weeks, he did not look certain. Priya, beside Marcus, had placed both palms flat on the table. She was very still. Her eyes were forward, but her hands were trembling. The opposing attorney regrouped first. She was professional, it must be said, and recovered faster than anyone else in that row. Your Honor, she said, we would request a brief recess to review. The document is already in evidence, the judge said. Her voice was level and gave nothing away, but her eyes were still on Marcus. We'll continue. What followed was methodical and efficient, and entirely without drama because Marcus answered every question in the same tone he used to discuss maintenance schedules. He had not concealed assets. The trust for Lily had been established at her birth. Elena had insisted. The investments had begun 12 years ago, before the marriage, when Marcus was a senior structural engineer at a firm that had taken on a series of infrastructure contracts and offered equity stakes. He had lived on his salary. He had let the holdings grow. He had not touched them. Not for himself. Not once. Why? Someone asked him why. He was quiet a moment. Elena grew up without anything, he said. I didn't want Lily to think about money the way Elena thought about money. He said it plainly. He said it to the judge, not to the room. I wanted her to grow up thinking she was just a kid, he said. Just a normal kid with a dad who packed her lunch. The judge made a note. Priya did not write anything. Her pen was resting on the pad. In the row behind, Lily had looked up from her drawing. She was watching her father now, sensing, the way children sense things before they understand them, that something important was happening. He turned to her. Just briefly. He pointed to the star with the face on her paper. She held it up, proud. He nodded once. That was enough. When the recess finally came, the attorney in the grey blazer walked past Marcus in the corridor. She did not speak to him. But she stopped, just for a beat, involuntary, and looked at his jacket. The fraying cuff. The bleach stain. The folded edge of a drawing visible in the breast pocket. She kept walking. 3 months later, the custody petition had been withdrawn. Not lost. Withdrawn. Derek's team filed the paperwork quietly on a Thursday morning. No press release, no statement. Marcus received the notification by email. He was packing Lily's lunch when it arrived. He read it once. Folded the sandwich diagonally. Wrote the note. Life looked like this now. Lily had started a new semester in the same school. The same one, the one she knew, the one with the teacher who called her our best star drawer. Marcus still drove her at 7:40. He still wore the jacket, not because he had to, but because he hadn't found a reason to stop. Maybe because some things are not about money. Maybe because the jacket had been in the courtroom when it mattered most, and that meant something he couldn't quite put into a sentence. Ray's daughter Chloe had her specialist appointment. The diagnosis was manageable. She was doing well. Marcus and Ray still ate lunch in the same break room on Tuesdays. Neither of them mentioned the $400. Some debts aren't financial. A man can have everything and give the impression of nothing. And the question worth sitting with is this. How many times have you dismissed someone based on what they were wearing? How many rooms have you walked into and decided, in the first 10 seconds, who mattered and who didn't? And how certain were you that you were right? That question doesn't have a clean answer. It just has you. If this story moved you, like and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to Solo Dad Stories for more stories about strength, sacrifice, and second chances.